Hi, friends, and welcome to 15241 Today Talk. Jim Render and I have the honor of sitting down with a good friend and now a neighbor of Jim Render in Peters Township, John Banaszak, was born in Cleveland, famous for being a Steeler on 3 Steeler Super Bowl championship teams, played in the USFL for a while. Former Marine, thank you for your service, sir, and thank you for joining us. Let me ask you, first of all, about being a Marine. Was that when you first came out of high school that you joined the Marines?
That's correct, Lanny. I joined the Marine Corps 6 months after I graduated from high school. Had a walk-on football offer to Kent State University, but I have 7 brothers and a sister, and my folks couldn't afford to send me to college. And talking with my dad, he said, join the military and you'll get the GI Bill and you'll be able to go to college on that. I had 2 older brothers that were both in the Navy. But one of my best friends had enlisted in the Marine Corps, and he talked me into joining him in a 2-year enlistment program. At that time, there were more Marines in the country of Vietnam than at any other time. So I joined the Marine Corps in a very tough situation. It's the best thing that I ever did.
So you didn't resist your dad when he made that suggestion to you?
No, I did not. Again, making that decision really changed my life. You go down to Parris Island, South Carolina, as a kid that, thought he was a tough guy, and they immediately put you in your place and let you know that the 10 weeks you're going to spend at Parris Island is going to change your life. And it really did. There's no doubt about that. I came out. Fortunately, I was not a grunt. As an infantryman, they came in, the drill instructor came in one morning and said, would anybody like to take the typing test? I couldn't get both of my arms up high enough because I could type. I took a typing course in middle school, changed schools, and had to take it again in high school. And I could type 60 words a minute. And I felt immediately after that test, I thought, man, it's going to be much easier for me. I can survive Vietnam by carrying a Black Royal manual typewriter through the jungles of Vietnam other than an M16.
So you were deployed to Vietnam?
I was not.
You were not?
I was, again, very lucky. I bought a book of Navy relief tickets from their CO, and he gave me the duty choice of my number 1 duty choice, which was Cherry Point, North Carolina. And I spent the rest of my career there, the rest of my 2 years there. Played on base football. When I joined the Marine Corps, I was 180 pounds. 2 years later, I was 230 pounds. And that kind of changed things for me. I got a hold of the coach that recruited me to Kent State. He had moved over to Eastern Michigan. Wrote him a letter. He wrote back to me that I got out of the Marine Corps on January 15th, 1971. Classes started January 25th. And I showed up, no recruit visit, only knowing one person on that campus, which was Coach Koso. And he introduced me to the head coach, Dan Boyster. Dan Boyster was a Korean War Marine. And, things started to work out in my favor because of the 2 years I spent in the Marines.
Hearing you tell that story, and I know how proud you are to have been a Marine. I guess not surprising, you have that big Marine emblem in the back window of your pickup truck.
I do. I have the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor on the back. I have Jim's my next door neighbor now, and he sees that a Marine Corps flag fly every day in front of my house. The Marines have given me much more than I could possibly give them. 2 years ago, I was inducted into the Marine Corps Sports Hall of Fame.
Congratulations.
Which is the highest honor I can get as an athlete. And there's so many big time names, including Roberto Clemente, in the Marine Corps Sports Hall of Fame. And a lot of people don't know or remember that Roberto was a reserve in the Marines. He spent 6 months of active duty back in the early 60s and finished out as a Marine Corps reserve.
Boy, I didn't know that.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm in the same Hall of Fame as Ted Williams and Roberto Clemente, the golfer, I can't remember his name now, but a lot of big-time Marines, boxers that go back into the 1930s and things like that. Very interesting.
Where was that ceremony?
That was at Quantico down in Virginia, and it was presented to me by the Commandant of the Marine Corps. And then I've been involved with the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation and trying to raise money for descendants of Marines. And we have a big dinner coming up next week. Well, it was a big dinner until this COVID struck. We usually had about a 250 people dinner. It's now down to 20 people. We're honoring Art Rooney Jr., and he was a Marine reservist also, which a lot of people don't know that either. But he's getting the Eagle Globe and Anchor Award this year, and it's he's not going to be able to attend, but you know, he's the architect of that great 1974 draft by the Steelers. Now has 4 Hall of Famers in the NFL Hall of Fame, and we're going to honor him for his service to the Marine Corps. And so the Marines have done an awful lot for me. There's no question about that.
Rocky Blyer ever give you any static about not going
That's
to Vietnam?
very interesting. He never gave me any static for going to Vietnam. But Rocky is actually a wannabe Marine. And I tease him all the time that his story would have been a whole lot different if he would have been a Marine.
John, what was the best thing about being a Steeler?
Wow. That's an interesting question. Obviously, you know, from where I come from, you know, being the one of only 3 rookies to make that 1975 team, the year after they won their first Super Bowl, I was a little bit concerned on you know, at that time about how I would become part of it and whether or not how I would be received once I made that team. And it was amazing that I was immediately accepted once that my teammates saw that I could contribute to that football team. Once they realized I could contribute to that football team based on my play on special teams, not as a defensive lineman, because George Perlis made it very clear to me that I would not be playing on Sunday. Okay? My contribution on Sunday would be on special teams. And my rookie year, I was 230 pounds, but I could run. And And that's how I won a job on that football team. And once you make some plays and your teammates see that you belong, that you can contribute, I think that's probably the thing that I remember most about that. And, being on the same team with 10 Hall of Famers, a Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame ownership. And when you sit down and you realize that, you've accomplished something that has, followed me the rest of my life. I played on the greatest football team to ever play the game, with some of the greatest players that have ever buckled a chin strap. It's pretty cool.
What is it about Chuck Noll? There's certainly been books written about him. The media has written tons of stories about him. Is there something about Chuck Noll that some people maybe don't appreciate about the type of man that he was?
Well, sitting here with Jim, it's interesting for me to talk about Chuck Noll, but I think that Jim would have the same kind of answer to your question. Chuck Noll was the consummate teacher. He loved to teach the game of football. Whether you were the greatest defensive lineman in the game, Joe Green, he'd walk up to Joe Green and say, "Joe, I think your stance is getting a little bit too narrow. Maybe you should widen your stance 3 inches." And then Chuck would just look at him eye to eye and walk away. And standing there listening to that conversation, going, "Wow, it's that important for him to pay attention to." And then getting into coaching later on in my life, I would sometimes think back and go, there's a lot of Chuck Noll in you. Because that's the kind of coach that I was. Those little things. The big things take care of themselves. It's the little things that win football games and championships. This guy won 400 games. Okay? I won 42 games. So I still have a lot of catching up to do. But Chuck was a fair man. You always knew where you stood with him. He wore his emotions on his face. We're playing the Houston Oilers my rookie year. We had practiced this punt block situation all week. J.T. Thomas and I were going to cross, and one of us was going to be free to block this punt. So we kick off to the Oilers. They drive the ball down to the 35-yard line. And it's 4th and 10. They sent the punt team out. Chuck send a return team. He said, "Put that block on." I said, "Okay." JT and I go up. We're lined up over the snapper. We cross. I get bumped in midair, and I get bumped into the kicker. I look, and the flag is right next to me, and we are at the 50-yard line at Three Rivers Stadium. 55,000 people. I hear one voice, "Banaszak, Banaszak." And it's Chuck screaming. So he's standing on the 40-yard line. I ran to the bench the other way. Which probably wasn't a good move. And Chuck's right here. He goes, What are you doing? You can't run into the kicker. I say, Coach, I got bumped. I don't know who did that, but I got bumped into him. And he's yelling, you can't get bumped. You can't get bumped. I said, oh, man, we win the game, okay? I know I'm going to get cut on Monday. I'm going to be replaced. And at least on Monday, because Chuck conducted the special teams, okay, the video. So he's going through it, and I'm like, okay, he's going to see that I got bumped.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, he's going to know it. He's going to see that, okay? Whether it was JT or the fullback or somebody knocked me into that punter, okay? And I'm waiting for an apology. Okay. Have you ever apologized to one of your players?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure that Chuck, no. I know I never did, okay. And he said he came up with some flimsy excuse that although I did get knocked into him, okay, the path I took might not have been the path that would have been able to block that punt. But at least he didn't cut me and fire me from it.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
You were head coach at W&J for a while, and then head coach at Robert Morris. You just said a moment ago, much of your techniques as a coach, are infused in you from your time with Chuck.
Yeah.
Details.
Yeah, absolutely. You win games by the small details of your position. You don't have to win the game, but you have to perform well enough in your position to not lose a game. If that makes any sense, it did to me, and I kind of thought that's how Chuck approached things, making sure that you were prepared. And obviously, one of Chuck's favorites is you don't win games on Sunday. You win games on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in preparation for the game. In film study, in making sure that you knew the game plan thoroughly, that you knew your opponent. You studied him on film, one-on-one, and what you were able to do against your opponent on Sunday. I carried that over to my coaching. Total preparation, making sure that you understood exactly what you need to do in order to be the best football player you can be. There are, sometimes you're going to be outmanned, and, that's when technique plays an important role in the game of football.
Tell me, you have a good George Perlis story? I mean, I spent a lot of time because I coached his sons when I first got here to Upper St. Clair, and I had a pretty close relationship with George. And
I just played golf with John a couple weeks ago, and he asked me what was my best George Perlis story. And I said, well, this happened my rookie year. This is after George told me, don't worry about playing on Sundays because you can't beat out Joe Green, Elsie Greenwood, Dwight White, Ernie Holmes. You're not good enough, okay? We kept you because you could play special teams. So I didn't play on Sundays unless it was a mop-up role at the end of the game. He'd put the scrubs, Steve Furness and I in and let us play a few plays, but special teams. So we get to the 10th game of the year, the Houston Oilers game, and it's a big game. We were 8-1, and they were 7-2, right behind us. and at the River Stadium. So midway through the second quarter, Dwight White was not going to, he didn't even dress that day. Steve Furness took his place. In the middle of the second quarter, L.C. Greenwood gets his leg caught in a pile and laying on the ground. The medical staff's administering to him. Immediately, George is right in my face. And he said, "You can't get hooked, you can't get reached. Oh my God, isn't there anybody else I can put in?" And I looked around and I said, "George, I'm the only one left. I got to play." He would much rather have put his mother in the game, I believe, okay, just because she was older and had seen more football games than I had played in. And he looked at me again. He said, "You can't get double teamed. You can't get cut. Oh, my God, there has to be somebody else." And I said, "George, nobody else." So I turned and started to run. He grabbed me, pulled me back, looked me right in the eye, and he said, "Don't blow it." With that motivational message ringing in my helmet, I ran out on the field. And on the way to the huddle, I'm thinking, he's right. Don't blow it. This is my chance to prove to 27 other teams in the league that I could play, that I could be a,
This was still your rookie year?
Still my rookie year, yeah. And I got to the huddle, looked to the right, and there's Joe Green. I looked to my left, there's Jack Ham. Getting ready to call the defensive signals was Jack Lambert. And I'm surrounded by 3 future Hall of Famers. How bad can I blow it? All right, even if I get blown off the line of scrimmage, Joe's going to be there, Ham's going to be there, Lambert's going to be there. I felt pretty good. How bad can I blow it? And then I realized Houston's going to run the ball right at me. There's no doubt about that. They already tested Steve Furness. They're tired of running at Ernie Holmes and Joe Green. Okay, they're going to run the ball right at me. I came off the football, okay, great technique, threw the offensive tackle down, made the tackle, okay. I jump up and I'm really pumped up now. I get back to the huddle and Joe Green says to me, "John, you want to run a twist?" I looked at Joe and I said, "No, Joe, I think I can do this on my own." Have you ever said something that you wish you could grab the words? I'm a one-play rookie, okay, who just told Joe Green, "No, I can do this on my own." And it was 3rd and long, obviously a pass situation. I lined up, took off, hit the offensive lineman right inside, great technique, spun inside. Lynn Dickey, the quarterback of the Oilers at the time, was standing right there. I sacked him, jumped up in the air, ran off the field with my arms in the air. Second important play of my career, I got a sack. And yeah, nobody had ever celebrated a sack before. I predate Gastineau and all those shoot 'em up.
You're the guy that did that.
I'm the guy.
You're the guy that started that.
When you're sick of seeing all that stuff on TV, okay?
It's all Banaszak's fault.
It is my fault. I celebrated the sack.
So what'd George say to you?
Well, George was jumped up, and he was so giddy about this whole thing, okay, that, it was, he came up to me, he goes, "Great play, but you got to be able to do it again the next series." Okay, and yeah, I was able to do it.
When you said you tackled the running back on that first play, was that Earl Campbell by any chance?
Oh, no, this is pre-Earl Campbell. But you mention his name and my toe starts to hurt. Because he hurt me.
You hurt a lot of people.
He hurt me too. Yeah. But that was it. I mean, it was, and, you know, after the ball game, okay, Andy Russell, and I just told this story because I saw Andy at Nevillewood, and Andy presented me with a game ball. That's the highest respect that you can receive in the locker room, is a game ball. And, you know, because I was a rookie and
you contributed.
I contributed. Yeah.
John has another passion that would be shared with you. Plays a lot of golf.
I love the game.
A lot of golf.
A lot of golf.
At least 3 times a week. And I've been on a string where I went 5 days, took a day off, went 6 days. Yeah. It's nice to be retired and be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to golf with Jim. I'm going to get him out to Montour and see what kind of game he has. I know that there's clubs in his garage, and I can't wait to see him use them.
Tell me about Mary. She works. She's the CEO at Greenbrier.
Yeah, you know, very proud of her in her career. She's very, very good at what she does. She at Greenbrier Treatment Center is a facility for drug and alcohol, and she has helped an awful lot of people. And you know, she's very dedicated to her work. I'm trying to get her to retire. She keeps putting it off. The latest is that it's going to be next October. And you know, she's put together a great staff. It's like football. She has great assistant coaches, and I know one thing that I learned from Chuck Knoll, and I know Jim Render was the same way. You let your assistant coaches do their job. You let them coach, and don't get in the way. And that's her philosophy down there. She does a very good job of helping people, and that's what she does.
And congratulations to the two of you for raising 3 wonderful children, and you have 8 grandchildren.
I have 8 grandchildren.
You're a blessed man.
Well, I am a blessed man. They're all within 6 miles of us. 2 families live in Peters Township. My son lives in North Strabane. And it's fun watching them grow. They're athletic. I think they've learned a few things from me that, you know, you compete and you win. I have no problem teaching my grandchildren that winning is very important. And they know that, and they compete. No question about that. Yeah, it's fun. I go to hockey games, I go to lacrosse games, I go to volleyball games, basketball games, a little football early on with the 2 older boys, but they've gone in other directions, and I'm okay with that. My grandson Jack may come back and play some football next year. I think he told me. He's thinking about it. And yeah, that's all good stuff.
It's fun to be with he and Mary, I'll tell you, because you know Pam pretty well.
Mm-hmm. I know Pam very
Both
well.
these women enjoy beating us up a little bit. Yeah.
Telling you 2 guys you're not as good as you think you were, huh?
We're not the head coach in the house.
No, we're not. No, we're not. We're the furthest thing from the head coach. We may be equipment managers, okay? And yeah, it's Jim's absolutely right. We've been married. Mary and I have been married 49 years.
How many for you and Pam?
You better know this answer.
46, I think.
46?
He throws an I think on
I
that.
think out there. Okay.
It might be 47.
But Mary says only 32 of those were good years. So.
Well, do me a favor, you two neighbors. Invite me out sometime. Love to spend a night with the two of you and hear some more stories.
Yeah, we could have that kind of fun. And the other guy who we got to get into this is John Luckhart. He just lives right over the hill from us. He's in walking distance to us. So I have a guy who won 400 high school games. I got a guy who won 200 college football games. And, you know, it's we get together.
Don't discount your contributions.
Yeah. It's quite a little neighborhood there. Yeah.
I'm glad you guys are our neighbors. And, John, thanks very much for being a part of the show with us. We sincerely appreciate it. Congratulations to you and Mary for all the great work you've done in your lives, not only raising children and grandchildren, but as it relates to your careers and just your philosophies about life. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And Lanny, it's good to see you again. And we had spent some time way back when with
Yeah, John, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
John Banaszak joining us on 15241 Today Talk. Glenn Ward is our producer-director. Linda Dudzinski, our coordinating producer. Thank you for joining us.